So good morning. I just wanted to put together this quick little video for you, especially since we have the long weekend. I want to make sure everyone's on the right track. I've had a few questions, and I know you guys get tired of reading all my announcements. So really quickly, I want to tell you that if you have not found the lecture schedule and the lab schedule, go to the syllabus tab, and then you'll see you can download my online syllabus. Go to the very last two pages, and the last two pages have the lecture schedule and the lab schedule. So if you haven't already printed those or downloaded those, you want to make sure that you have them, because it's going to tell you when all the quiz dates are, when the exam dates are, but and then more importantly for right now, for many of the questions I'm getting, it's going to tell you what labs to do each week. So that way then it really helped to kind of keep you on track, as well as like what lectures to cover. So in terms of the videos and things like that. So please look at that. If you have any questions, of course, you can always email me. Second, I wanted to talk about the labs. I've had a lot of questions about the actual like lab handouts that I'm posting. So those lab handouts are actually, they used to be kind of our lab in-person lab handouts that we used. So I give them out because I feel like without a lab book, a lot of people are like, I need something. And this was like kind of basically part of our lab book. But Dr. Morley put them together as an online kind of handout just so that students had something to work through. Now, please keep in mind that you need to look at my first page for the lab module, and it will kind of line out what you're doing. And then you can go through that lab handout. And if there are things in there in the lab handout that I didn't cover on my first page, or in the PowerPoint file, I linked a lot of PowerPoint files to each lab, because honestly, they were the PowerPoints that I used to introduce the labs. So when I was teaching in person. So please kind of look through those things. If you see something in the lab handout and you're like, oh, you didn't really cover this, then it's not going to be on the lab practical. So for example, many people have asked about the metric conversions. On the Red Mountain campus, we actually teach the metric conversions in Bio 181, in the very first lab of Bio 181. So we don't redo it in 201. But for those of you that have not had the metric conversions, it might be a good review for you to go through this. Again, it's not going to be necessarily on the practical, but there are things in there that you should know, especially if you're going into like the health professional careers. So, I mean, just as an example, and I'll post some of these because someone asked a question on this. Just as an example, you should know how to convert pounds to kilograms. So you should know that, you take your weight and then divide by 2.2 to get kilograms, or your weight in kilograms. And so I always would tell people, your weight always looks better in the metric system, right? So go metric system, because you're basically, your weight, you're kind of taking your weight in pounds and dividing it in half is kind of your estimate. And the reason that it's good to kind of know that and have that in the back of your mind is that if for some reason someone were to make a mistake and enter things incorrectly on their app, maybe they put the pounds in the kilogram box and then, did that conversion, then you would know. Like if you have a 100-pound person and, someone put that their weight in kilograms is over 200, you're like, whoa, that's really wrong, right? And you don't want to calculate medications based on that, because most medications are dosed in like milligrams per kilogram of body weight. So again, those are kind of important things to know. It's just good to be able to have that like intuitive sense that, okay, someone's weight in pounds is about half of that in kilograms, okay? So again, those are just kind of the types of things that I think are important for your careers more so. Also just knowing that most medications come in milligrams per kilogram. So, that's why we do weights, we convert them to kilograms. So, if you have like a medication and it's like, oh, you have 10 milligrams, you give 10 milligrams per every kilogram of body weight, and then you just multiply that by the kilograms of the body weight of that individual, and then you know how much they need per day. Also, the other kind of thing, and I know a lot of my kids' medications come this way, they'll come in milligrams per milliliter. So for example, I have one, actually, this is a real example I give one of the students, and I can post this for you, but one of the medications comes in a concentration of 10 milligrams per 5 milliliters. But he needs to have 20 milligrams every day, okay, per his body weight. So that means if it's 10 milligrams per 5 milliliters and he needs 20 milligrams, he has to take, right, you double that. So double the 5 milliliters, that's 10 milliliters. So he needs 10 milliliters every day. So again, I mean, I don't want to bog you down again in the metric conversions. These are just things that I'm mentioning that I think are important for you to know for your careers. Again, they're not going to be in the lab practical, but those are the types of things that I think are important to carry on if you are unfamiliar with that. And I can post these examples for you just so that you have them and you can kind of get a feel for where you're at with that. And then if you need some help, I'm happy to help you out with that, even though it's not in the lab practical, because again, I know that it's valuable for you, not just for, you know, your biology courses, but for your careers. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is that those lab exercises by Dr. Morley, I know they have like a thing up at the top that says you need to submit them. You do not need to submit them. For me, again, I just posted them more for I know some of you like to have like a lab handout to work through. So that's for those of you that really like to have that lab handout. I was one of those students, so that's why, but you do not have to submit them. However, if you have questions on them or you are unsure of whether or not you got the correct answer, it's a great kind of way for you to ask me questions. So please, I want you guys to feel comfortable asking me questions, you know, even a couple times a week, you know, if you've got questions and while you're going through it, just send me an email while you have a question on it, and then I will get back to you as soon as I can, okay? Lastly, the StudyMate flashcards. So I think it was 1 or 2 announcements ago, I posted how to download the StudyMate app. I highly suggest that you do this on like a mobile device, because the reason being is that once you do that, I'm actually linking it so that you can access these StudyMate flashcards from your mobile device. So that way then, as we get into histology, and we started to enter histology this week, there's a lot of slides, and I know they're confusing. And all students feel the same way about histology, but it is important. And so what you can do is download this StudyMate app. There are flashcards for all of the histology like slides in StudyMate, and you can just quiz yourself on these flashcards. You can also, you know, print the images from the original sites that I have linked there. I think you can have them printed at Walgreens and things like that. You can do that. But honestly, I think what's most helpful is if you can use the StudyMate app and go through the flashcards on your phone. And that way then you're waiting for your kids and you're just going through StudyMate flashcards anytime you have a free few moments. And this is kind of a trick that I like to tell most students. I'm sorry, this is running a little long for announcement, but there were things that I kind of forgot to mention in the orientation, and one of them is how to use your time, how to maximize your use of time. So again, in between, you know, anytime you're waiting in line or you're waiting for to pick up your kids, or you know, maybe have a lunch at work and you're just, you know, you can eat and go through those StudyMate flashcards. That's kind of the best thing that you can do, because repetition is key for anatomy and physiology. I mean, it's just a lot of memorization, and the more repetition that you get, the more likely you are to remember that for the exams. So StudyMate flashcards, if you have any trouble with that, downloading the app, please let me know. Or accessing any of the StudyMate flashcards. And again, for histology too, if you have any issues with the slides, I can always set up like a Google Meet for you and we can go through some of the slides. I know that they are challenging, but once you get the hang of it, then, and you're, you know, doing it over and over again, then it becomes much easier, okay? Lastly, with this announcement, I'm going to post a link for a site That's about dihydrogen monoxide, which is a fancy way of saying H2O, right? Dihydrogen, two hydrogen, mono, one oxygen. So again, H2O. And the reason I'm going to post the site for you is I'm just going to kind of introduce this because I know I know I told you I'd kind of post this after the first exam, but I do want to introduce you to being careful about your sources because you are going to cite, you are going to do an article kind of review. And so you have to really, this site was created by, I'm assuming like a chemistry professor, and it's, fake site. It's a spoof site. And so they talk about how dangerous dihydrogen monoxide could be. But he has all kinds of links to other sites and makes it look really genuine. So I want you to take a look at the site. It's a very good reminder as to why you need to look at the sources for each of the sites that you use, internet sites, and be really careful about the information that's out there. Just remember, anybody can post anything on the internet, and so it's not all true. So lastly, that was my last, sorry, I keep saying lastly, that was my last announcement. If you have any questions or concerns, again, I mean, you're starting to feel behind, please, please, please come see me. I don't want you to start to get lost in the shuffle and then hit the first exam and crash, okay? All right, so good luck and enjoy the long weekends, and hopefully you're all able to stay up with the lectures and the videos are going well for you. Again, let me know if you're having any problems with that, and have a great weekend.